Last Pint Productions presents the New Way podcast. The New Way contains adult content including Mothra, domestic box office gross, and the death of the summer blockbuster. Listener discretion is advised.
What the hell is this thing?
The lasso of Hestia compels you to reveal the truth.
But it's really hot. Yes, Drax? I got a penis.
Ha! Thank you.
It's not half bad.
Huh.
Everybody wants to be naked and famous. Everybody wants to be just like me. I'm naked.
Will you help teach me about this? What is it? A new way?
Namaste, and welcome to The New Way, your guide to enlightenment through better movies and television. I'm your host, Sherpa Matthew Shank, here with my co-host,
or hipster movie phone. Remember movie phone?
And I look to Ben, and Ben is just staring slack-jawed at me.
Just into the void.
I don't want any part of this improv whatsoever.
No.
This is exactly what happened in the Disney episode when I went full Gaston and no one else participated.
Which I thought was pretty funny. I
That's
just
what
like,
you get.
oh, LeFou, wrap your large legs around my manly loin, or whatever it is he said was pretty good.
Crespo showed up in
someone to.
Crespo showed up in a Frozen T-shirt, and he didn't humor you with the Gaston, huh?
He brought the T-shirt especially to put on during the podcast, but he owned that T-shirt already. That was not anything that he was goaded into during the podcast.
It wasn't a prop.
No, it was not at all a prop. So we are officially, I believe this podcast, when it airs, will be 4 in a row. And we will officially, since it's the last Sunday in September, we will have a full month of podcasts for the first time since we've returned to your airwaves. So that is very exciting for us, and hopefully we'll keep up the pace a little bit.
We've been doing a good job by kind of mixing it up as far as who's on the podcast, I think.
It's been super fun, and we've had a lot of, I think everybody that's come in here, we probably had more people in and out of here than we did even on the original.
Yeah.
But we've had Greg.
More than Matt's single days.
It's right.
More than the time Matt discovered OkCupid.
Well, there were some guests that recorded podcasts that will never ever air. They were just like, no. This is the casting couch, podcasting couch.
Oh my God.
Tales of the podcasting couch. It's like the casting couch porn, except that it's just vocals. It's a podcast.
Okay, good, because I'm really sitting boring on the couch right now, and it's not leather and easily wipeable like the real thing.
I don't think it
was. It's fabric.
Now you wonder why it's been so hard to get up from that couch.
Well, David.
I thought I was just getting excited.
David and Dan did share some very close space on that couch during the podcast, so that's the only time we've had full studio. Except when Timmy was in here the one time, but he did not.
Yes,
speak.
he was. He wasn't all here.
No, he was.
Timmy was operating at around 43%.
Yeah,
that's probably generous.
But definitely want to thank everyone. And last week we had Ben's wife in for the first time, Beth. And she gets to be part of one of our favorite segments that we haven't done in a while.
Oh, Slurred Sophisticate.
Welcome to another edition of the Slurred Sophisticate, where we slow down portions of a podcast you probably didn't listen to in order to make it funnier. So, without further ado, please enjoy the Slurred Sophisticate.
So 1 week ago today... 1 week ago yesterday, I received a call from one Ben Wilson saying my wife and daughters and dog and I are escaping the impending Hurricane Uma.
This is painful.
Man. Man,
The visuals of Hurricane Uma.
Like an angry Uma Thurman.
Exactly. I'm just thinking Kill Bill.
This has been another rousing edition of the
Hurricane
Slurred Sophisticate. Join us next time for more shenanigans.
Yes,
Don't
Hurricane
talk
Uma.
over the voiceover, Ben. He produced this.
Oh, the voiceover is old, so it's good. But we actually had a few pretty good ones. We had Ben wanting to franchise Bojangles.
Whatever
Oh, wait,
happened
whoops,
to
wrong one.
Benny's Ice House? Is that building still available?
That was Beth helping with the building, and then Ben was this one.
You know, consider the thought of opening up a Bojangles in Boynton Beach, Florida, because I think that would be a lucrative venture.
You should have played that one.
Which ironically sounds exactly like something I would say at Benny's Ice House.
The number one rule of Slurred Sophisticate is don't go over 15 seconds.
Well, and what I responded to Ben with, as I understand it, Bojangles has delicious biscuits, but nary a drop of alcohol. So I said no, but yeah, we just had some very good slow down moments in last week's episode. So,
That is very funny.
If you guys want to listen to our disaster movie recap instead of our disaster podcast, you can do so, and it will be very, very fun for you. So we haven't had Nick in the studio in a while.
Nick's been,
It's been peaceful around here, hasn't it?
world traveling.
He's been in Los Angeles, and where else have you been?
Oh, man, you know, up and around, down, up, Italy, which brings us to here.
To Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah, Norman, Oklahoma was there with the Sooners.
Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That's a place that
Norman,
exists.
Oklahoma. It was slightly more safe
No, it's
than Norman
it's
Bates.
a person. It's a guy he was inside of.
It's like Indiana Jones's brother or cousin, Norman, Oklahoma. How long were
He
you
named the dog Oklahoma.
How long were you in Norman, Oklahoma?
2 days, which is exactly the amount of time that you want to be in Norman, Oklahoma.
That's pretty fantastic. Was there any
Our
like
viewership just dropped. Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I did look at our analytics, and we have a huge following in Norman, Oklahoma. So thanks a lot, Nick, for really blowing it for us.
Well, we all knew the ancient prophecy would be fulfilled, that I would destroy the new way.
Well, you were going to be on an episode a little while ago, and I prepared something, and then you weren't able to make the episode. And I
was washing my hair that day.
I think so. And I had to use some of it on the Disney podcast with the guys because they had never heard the goofy Evanescence. But as I was pulling clips for that to play for them, which was really good, I isolated one spot and I played it once, and it's just wake me up, and that's all it is. That's all it is. But I made the mistake of hitting the repeat on it, and I realized we can make a metal song. So if I put this on repeat, wake me up, wake me up, wake me up, wake me up, what do I got? Wake me up.
All that I see, absolute horror. That is totally
Goofy is threatening me. How do I sleep? How do I live? Wake me up. Wake me up.
Kill them all. Don't download my songs on Napster.
I think you should do a Norman, Oklahoma metal song right now.
Wow. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Wake me up. Home of the Sooners. Wake me up. And corn. Norman, Oklahoma. Wake me up.
To be fair,
Oh, please turn it off. now.
corn isn't from Norman, Oklahoma.
Oh, I'm thinking Nebraska. Aren't I?
Nebraska.
Don't they have corn? They have cornfields and.
I was talking about the
Oklahoma?
band.
Oh, that's true. It's so funny. You remember that? When I was in California, I was visiting some friends, and they got a house in the desert.
You met Goofy?
No, we're all sitting around, and I'd had a couple beers, and I thought this is the time to unleash that Goofy Evanescence video, and I'm laughing just thinking of it as I'm pulling it out. It hasn't even loaded yet, and I'm starting to laugh. And I'm getting everyone's hopes up, and I've talked it up, and I've had 3 beers. And it was one of those things where I played it, and I got 0 response. Zero response. It was so awkward.
Kind of like you with Top Secret.
Yes, I was very upset that you did not respond more favorably to Top Secret.
What was Top Secret?
Val Kilmer, Zucker Abrams Zucker parody movie.
I don't remember this.
You were super high, apparently. No,
I don't know. I don't think you were actually. No, I put it on as
Val
one of the
Kilmer. I remember everything with Val Kilmer. Something doesn't
apparently
duck me.
I showed it to you for the first time here. It's an early '80s movie that's a parody of like
Elvis
old spy
movies
films and
and-
Elvis
Dude,
flicks.
I was totally into that movie.
I don't know.
Well, listen, I wasn't rolling in the proverbial aisles, but I enjoyed it.
Were you rolling in non-proverbial aisles?
I thought I enjoyed it to a satisfactory extent. That's what I think.
You sound like every girl I've had sex with.
They wouldn't use the word satisfactory, man.
No, they used it just the same way as you did, like a dagger.
I mean, the tone is there, but the satisfactory would not.
No,
be.
I didn't expect for that to last longer.
I think you can aim for sufficient. I think it would be a good goal. Productive.
So
Fill me up, Mr. Matt.
So we've survived a hurricane. We've got Nick back in the studio. It's September, and there's a lot of stories floating around right now about what the hell happened with movies in summer 2017. And it's an interesting discussion because
Well, the ancient Mayans predicted earthquakes, hurricanes, and the fall of the entertainment
the fall
industry.
of the box office.
That was last week's episode, Nick. You missed it.
What?
We did 2012 and disasters last week.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I still thought it was
I thought it was okay. I thought
No, it was
I
fine.
thought your
Been out of
joke
the
was
game,
a
you guys.
little harsh.
No, I wasn't going
little
harsh.
harsh.
I wasn't going harsh. I was just
were
being
going
stupid.
harsh
I
on
was
me.
being stupid.
You were going hard.
Let me
You were going
just say,
full hard.
Let me just say, I spent about 5 minutes preparing for this podcast. I'm very excited to be back, to be in your presence again, and this is what I get.
That's what I'm hearing from you right now. I'm just hearing a gentle tear being shed from you over.
I love that you don't even just play father and son, but you play Kevin Smith
crying.
to father and son.
So-
in
Did you
Guardians
bring
of
that
the
up last
Galaxy
week
2.
before I
No,
had
no, we
more
did not.
egg on my face? Can I reference what you just played?
Well, so
that Kevin Smith video of him watching the funeral scene in Guardians, Matt showed it to me, and Kevin Smith is so high and he cannot keep it together. He's tears are streaming down his face, and he like was it live or
he did live Facebook Live.
Facebook
20
Lived
minutes.
it. And it just so vulnerable and adorable, crying at Yondu's funeral scene. Spoilers alert.
Well, no, and so that was the start of our podcast. Our return to the podcast was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which is really the start of the summer movie season for our, all intents and purposes.
which is great.
And so, from my standpoint, I feel that I think there were a lot of flops as far as money goes, and they were all the big tentpole shit movies that no one cares about anymore. But I think there were a lot of quality movies this summer that stepped out of those bounds and did pretty well. Now I know, Ben, you saw a couple that I didn't get to see that I did want to see, like Dunkirk and Logan Lucky, which were two that were really on my radar that I wanted to see. I guess Logan was in August, right?
Mm-hmm. He also pulled some strings and saw Magic Mike 3. Very bootleg.
Wow, that's impressive. But what was interesting to me, so I was kind of looking at the list of summer movies, and one of the things I noticed is that there was no big summer comedy. And everyone that came out flopped, other than
there was like the Amy Schumer, Goldie Hawn, or was
Snatched,
that
that bombed. Baywatch bombed.
Bombed, yeah.
Rough Night bombed. The only one that did The House bombed. Amy Poehler and Will Ferrell. Girls Trip was the only one, which was actually like a big surprise sleeper hit that I think Girls Trip and Dunkirk knocked Valerian out of the box office almost completely, which kind of, I was on the fence about going to see, but it clearly didn't get a lot of people that wanted to go see it. And then you had a bunch of these other big movies like Pirates of the Caribbean and Transformers, sequels from movies that like people have, it's isn't it? I guess the international box office is so strong that it just doesn't care, like, because no one's going to see them here anymore, right?
You know, it's interesting, Matt. The thing is, to me, what I would if I'm charged with trying to figure out what went on, why is it so underperforming this year? We had this conversation a little bit ago. I feel like cinema is so overdue for a brand new original tentpole. It's really ripe for the picking because the only things that are doing really well, these nostalgic remakes or reboots or something that's based on a source material. I gotta think that maybe going against these trends and a big, Back to the Future type blockbuster summer movie, but not based on a book, not based on a comic, something from a filmmaker, I think could be what really rejuvenates the industry right now. Because the only thing that is making money are the big superhero movies and event movies that people want to see with other people.
Let me rewind about 5 years or 6 years, actually, literally 6 years. I mean, so you have a movie like Inception, which is a summer movie, original concept. Jonathan Nolan was a movie that was immensely successful, but I don't feel
Jonathan Nolan
wrote it.
He wrote it?
Yeah.
Chris Nolan directed.
I've never heard of this Jonathan Nolan.
Who is this Jonathan Nolan?
Ben dislikes Chris Nolan so much. He's like, Inception, written by
Jonathan
Nolan.
Jonathan Nolan. No, actually, I have my beef with Christopher Nolan film. Well, I don't have my beef with Christopher Nolan. I have my beef with Christopher Nolan fans who think that he's the end all be all. I got into this huge argument online on Rivals, which is a terrible place. People who don't know anything about movies.
In the comment section of Pornhub,
are arguing.
Well, there goes our Rivals.
Honestly, it's essentially the same thing. People who are just like, if you don't think that Christopher Nolan, I even almost said Jonathan Nolan, if you don't think that Christopher Nolan's one of the top 10 directors of all time, then you're fucking stupid. And I'm just like, first off, Christopher Nolan isn't even one of the top 10 living directors. He might not be in the top 50 living directors.
Well,
so
okay, that's a little.
Oh, okay. And then I said, okay. Somebody said name 10 living directors who are better than him, and I was just like, okay. And I listed about 50. Basically, I was like, arguably all of these people are better than Christopher Nolan.
50 better than Nolan.
I think
living
you can do
today.
It, sure.
That was to prove a point. I maybe think from a Hollywood or from
over under on the top 20
motherfucker.
from a spectacle. I mean, I was throwing in people who other filmmakers respect, like Bela Tarr. Like Bela Tarr is never going to show up. I mean, like Steven Spielberg
is that the villain in Thor Ragnarok?
No, God damn you! Come on, man. Bela Tarr, Barry Jenkins, award winner Barry Jenkins is his favorite director is Bela fucking Tarr. Okay, man. Just so you know.
No need to use profanity.
That was kind of a funny joke. It's okay. It
is
both.
funny. No,
it's also okay to just be a funny joke.
Anyways,
not with the clarifier.
That's aside. It
was very funny.
I actually like Christopher Nolan. People think I don't like Christopher Nolan. That I shill over him.
Why would they think that?
Because I have clarity when it comes to his deficiencies.
If you guys want to see a good article, Ben has a list up on BuzzFeed of 30 janitors who are better directors than Christopher Nolan.
No, that was Chris Columbus.
Oh yeah.
No, not Chris Columbus in all movies. Just Chris Columbus with Rent, because I really think that the janitor at my high school could have directed a better Rent movie than Chris Columbus did, but that's my opinion.
Well, the janitor at your high school wouldn't know how to use a crane or jib, so yeah, he probably would have made a better film. Every other shot is a jib shot.
So we totally cut into your so Inception.
Anyways, well, what I'm saying is that I feel like because I agree with you. I've always agreed with what Nick said initially.
What part did you agree with?
No, I agree that there's
nothing original.
There needs
for a summer,
and so when you have a platform like a Nolan or somebody like that does, and they present something original, it tends to be successful. But it doesn't really change the game. And the thing is
it's not entirely original because it's based on not only historical fact, but there was also Indian films made about that. But they actually referenced the Indian troops that were involved in the battle, whereas they weren't really referenced.
We're talking about Inception here.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Dunkirk.
No. I was like, whoa, what? There was a Inception was based on a true story about the
It's like,
Indians.
Oh my God.
what the fuck is going on here?
I don't know what's going on.
And now I don't even know what you're talking about with Indians. And there's nothing about
not Native Americans. And the Battle of Dunkirk.
What the fuck is going on?
Right?
So yes,
To fact check this.
no, I'm just
trying to. I was on like I was with you, and I'm
my
following
God.
along, and I'm like,
Wait.
like the
I'm sitting here, my eyes just glazed
and I was like,
over.
yeah,
a fucking...
the Native American tales with the dream catchers, and the Nick's very right. That's an existing property that exists in their culture.
I'm sitting there. I'm just
Speaking
like,
of Dreamcatcher, why isn't the Dreamcatcher sequel part of our Hollywood blockbuster of summer? Lawrence Kasdan produces.
Oh Lord Almighty!
Listen, all I was saying is that I think that the people have tried. I think a lot of filmmakers have tried to grasp onto they're not always original concepts, like they're straight from screenplay to screen. Sometimes they are based off of books, but they're based off of books that are a little bit less accessible or whatever. I have a thesis that I'm going to get to in a little bit, but I'd like for you guys to talk about this for a little bit before I get into it.
Well, I
It's
mean,
kind of
so. What I think is that the Oscars have fucked the summer for original content. The summer is about boosting box office numbers, and inherently built into that is name recognition. Now, that doesn't mean that. See, what I think it is I think that a lot of action movies and big spectacle pieces have gotten smarter, and the studios are pushing those to a November or a December release to try to get Oscar credibility. I look at something like Arrival, right? I think Arrival in 1997 would have been a summer movie. I mean, Contact was a summer movie, I think in 97. That's the kind of movie that we're not seeing. And Contact now would never come out in the summer.
no Contact would have an Oscar push.
It would have
and
a
come out in
huge
December.
Oscar push. And I think what's happening is they're siphoning all of the intelligence over. And that's where I will always come back to why people that shit on Marvel and call them cookie cutter, or shit on The Force Awakens even, or some of the Star Wars properties, is that making those movies to the level that they are making them to is way fucking harder than it looks. And for anyone to be like, oh, well, fucking all the Marvel movies are the same and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 sucked, I go, put Guardians of the Galaxy 2 against Transformers or the newest Pirates of the Caribbean or any of these other shit fucking sequels that have an easier job, if anything,
Put it
to
against
do it.
Annabelle Creation.
Yeah. Well, oh no, so horror is the one that's still not getting recognized by the Academy. So horror movies are now getting dumped a little bit closer, although they're hitting better around September time, which is where it kind of came. August a little bit.
August was always the perennial. It was the junk dump of the summer, which is where movies that studios had low confidence in, that whether they cost a lot of money or not, they would end up in that sort of August, September sort of nebulous area before the Oscars push started officially. That used to start on October 1. I'm going to get to that in a minute. It's changed now. But now it's like August is like the horror month. It's like every movie that comes out, there's a horror movie like every weekend in August. This year is not a great example because I think there were only like 2 or 3 that came out. But
they were just
but you know what though?
Horror.
But I can draw a comparison between horror film.
Can you move that so I can see your pretty face? Can you move that? Just swing this mic around.
You want to see my look of confusion when I bring up something completely
instead
random?
of looking into your black hole.
Oh God. Well, using that segue, so like a comparison between horror and these big Marvel temples, right? And the reason why they do well traditionally, even the shitty horror films that aren't as acclaimed as it, they always make money because people want to be in a theater and be scared with other people.
They're cheap to make.
Even Get Out. I mean, part of the reason why you go to a theater to see that film is to be scared with other people. You don't have the same experience if you put on Netflix or you go to Redbox or something, right? And this year, I forgot who did it, but I think it was this service where you bought it sort of like Netflix and a subscription, but you could go see one movie a week at a theater, and it was unlimited service. I forgot the terms, but you paid for a membership, and it was not for Netflix. It wasn't to stream audio or video.
Well, yeah, I
it was
remember because
to
a bunch
go
of
to
the filmmakers
theater.
got really pissed off about it.
Right, but that was an effort to get people into the theaters because no one's going anymore. And what they don't understand is people go to see movies in the theaters now for other people. Like 10 years ago, you wouldn't go to the theater because you go, I don't want to go with all the crowds of people and they're gonna yell and they're gonna scream, and I'd rather just sit in the comfort of my own home and watch TV. And then streaming came and they're like, yeah, this is great. I'm gonna order in. I'm gonna watch all these movies. I have a limitless buffet of movies and TV shows I can put on. I'm gonna stay home. So the movies where your fellow Marvel fans in the Spider-Man jersey and like the obnoxious Wolverine hat, and you're in Infinity War, and Stan Lee's cameo comes up, and you look around, you're like, oh! And you look at each other, you give each other a face, you clap, when a new character shows up, you're more amped because the guy in back of you is more amped. You go to a horror movie, you get scared, you see the girl in front of you get scared, you see the guy next to you throw popcorn in the air. That's
Which is why I hate seeing horror movies in the theater.
Well, listen, I'm just saying people go to the theater now
You're completely
for
correct.
that connection with strangers, and it used to be a reason you didn't go to the theater.
I'm going to piggyback on that in a little bit, but I absolutely 100%
Ben is really
agree
like
with you.
saving up his bank here for whatever this dissertation. Like I
piggyback.
I mean,
bank?
I see hard nipples right now. I see at least
Dude,
I see
I'm
at least
so-
3 hard nipples.
So hard.
Because
It's not
because
just
he
my
told
nipples,
Alexa
man.
to set your house to 69 degrees before he walked in here.
Which you're gonna hear that yell a lot, and that is, of course, the only entertaining thing about this summer's biggest failure, which is probably The Mummy. Not only a failure for the film itself, but for a
I thought that
franchise.
was recorded last Thursday when you had a recorder set up in my bedroom when I was sleeping over here.
Ben and his wife just like, yeah, baby, you ready? Oh, no, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
I haven't seen that film, and you guys haven't seen
haven't-
that film,
I haven't
right?
I don't need to see that film.
Okay, so it got panned, and the thing was, I was in from the trailer. The trailer wasn't terrible.
From the
I
trailer
was gonna
without
see it.
sound?
Pretty
I was
bad.
going to see it. The reviews normally don't sway me too much, right? If a movie gets a bunch of good reviews and it was off my radar, maybe. If I want to see a movie, a bunch of bad reviews don't normally sway me. The amount of not just bad reviews, but it was like inspiration for some washed up movie reviewers to just have a renaissance in their career. They went to town with that, and I didn't end up seeing it, but the concept that Universal had to bring back all of their classic, classic monsters and have a franchise for each was brilliant, and I was very excited, and they got off on maybe the worst possible foot.
But there's a lot of people that are getting really pissy
them in
about
DC. I mean,
Yeah,
come on,
well,
like
and it's-
DC's made the same mistakes.
Well, and what sucks is that
Very similar
now
ways,
they're
Ben. Very similar.
Like now the fan community is now trying to make this a thing that studios are doing because studios are doing it poorly, which is essentially the extended universe, right? The concept of an extended universe, which Marvel really, for the most part, other than Kevin Smith, pioneered.
No. I mean, like when you're talking about
invented
in a comic universe, Kevin and I found out one of the most interesting things I ever saw on Screen Junkies was where Kevin Smith argument where they came up with a movie fights and they said who was the most influential filmmaker working right now, and Kevin Smith's answer was Kevin Feige. Said because being a filmmaker doesn't mean you have to be a fucking director.
Yeah.
He's like, Kevin Feige has conceptualized a universe and has delivered on that universe over the course of like
A fucking decade.
Over a decade, with a decade to come, and everything's pretty much been phenomenally successful. Like it has been, above a high bar.
And everyone keeps waiting. Everyone keeps waiting. What is the bomb going to be? And everyone thought, and I was in the same boat. I was like,
Well,
it's
so-
going to
so-
be Guardians,
so-
right? I
so-
thought Guardians 1 was going to be
But
the
so now,
misstep.
like everyone's just like, oh, like Runaways is shit or whatever. It's like, but at this point, the universe is so fucking sprawling that of course they're gonna have a fucking Iron Fist or something on a Netflix series or something that's gonna fucking suck or whatever. And then, oh, well, they're integrated into this other show, and all of a sudden that other show's badass. So guess what? Now it's cool again. So it's
good. It's where I guess they're like where the fans have gotten just obnoxious, and it's why I can't. I sit and lurk on talkbacks.
I can't even look at talkbacks.
It drives
anymore.
me fucking nuts because
it's
it's
not
like
as bad as Rick and Morty fans.
Well,
They're
basically,
the worst.
their whole thing is basically, why isn't everyone? They're just going to make everyone a woman and make everyone transgender and make everyone this thing, and that's what the studios do it, and it's blah blah blah, and they're just these fucking white asshole males that are so sad in their world.
Wait.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting we have a problem with white, sad
we might
males in
there
America?
There might be a problem that they're threatened by anything that is different. And the problem is that the fucking Hollywood is not helping us by making shitty... The thoughts are right. Making a Universal Monsters extended universe, great fucking idea.
It still
the
has
casting
to be good.
choices, great fucking idea. But they think it's easy. They look at Marvel, and I think that's also what the fan community has done is Hollywood is hearing some of that buzz, and they're like, oh well, they say it's cookie cutter, so it's fucking easy to make a comic book thing. We're DC, we've got pantheon of fucking years and years of comics. How hard can it be to stitch together 7 or 8 of them and make a thing? It's fucking hard,
right?
And that's why Marvel is so fucking good at what it does.
See, the best stab I think I've seen of it so far, and it's from a franchise that only has 2 films out right now, and one which is only half successful, which is Legendary doing the extended Monsters universe with Godzilla and King Kong. Because I finally watched Skull Island,
which is great,
which is really
I like it better than Godzilla.
It's better than Godzilla. That's why I was saying Godzilla is the one that's kind of the half one there, but they're setting up something there.
I like the Cranston Godzilla. I was into that.
You guys liked it better than I was in the minority.
See, the thing was, the reason why I liked it is because it was a Godzilla movie. It had the Godzilla personality, and by the end of it, it was like when it got to the actual monster fights. But the problem is, it took forever to get to the fucking monster fights. The last 20 minutes was a perfect new Godzilla movie, and it was a bunch of characters you didn't care about basically leading up to it, which actually,
but no Matthew Broderick, no soundtrack by Sean Puffy Combs.
This is true.
Well, those were actually detractors against the movie, but
and then I look at the directing choices that they're making with some of the guys who they're bringing in for the new movies for this monster universe, and I'm just like, this is interesting. Like this is really cool. It's gonna kill me right now because I could have told you what his name was because Dougherty, Michael Dougherty, who's directing the Godzilla versus King Kong movie. Guess what his 2 directing credits are? Trick or Treat and Krampus.
Yeah, Trick or Treat is amazing.
Trick or Treat is amazing. Krampus is not so good.
Trick or Treat is not so
good.
Krampus
is fun. Trick or Treat is good.
Trick or Treat is great.
Trick or Treat is his anthology. I mean, that was his original movie.
Which is one of the scare zones at Halloween Horror Nights, which Nick and I will be at tomorrow.
Yeah. Nice. God, I love that Mr. Krampus in this.
No. Trick or Treat, not Mr.
No, there's no Krampus this year?
No, but that movie was not a good movie.
But they had a Krampus before the Krampus movie came out.
It wasn't a great movie. I actually very recently, because I watched it with you in the theater.
And Luke.
And I recently rewatched. I didn't see the whole thing, but I watched the first half.
My parents watched it.
The character development, the first third of that movie is almost perfect. They do.
That's the problem. It's the opposite of most horror movies. They do a great job with the characters. They don't do a great job with the gags.
Yeah, exactly.
The stuff.
And so, but anyways, I still thought it was an interesting choice because
King Kong can't beat Godzilla, though, right? I mean, how is King Kong going to beat Godzilla?
Well, he's hell of a lot faster.
What?
Not the new Godzilla. I mean, the Godzilla can spit fire and like.
No, Godzilla always seems to be lumbering, whereas Kong's more like a linebacker.
Kong's a fucking gorilla.
Not Bryan Cranston's Godzilla. That
first of all,
he's
still
Stanton's
Godzilla. He's all of our Godzilla.
All right.
Anyways. So yes, there is this, but
it's like Batman versus Superman.
But you realize, like in this new movie, there's like Ghidorah, there's Rodan, there's like all of these like old like
and that director you mentioned a few moments ago.
I'm gonna make some weird shit.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen.
So, anyways, I do appreciate because I liked Godzilla, I liked Kong a lot more than I expected to. I like the direction that whole thing is going in, the way they're setting up that monster universe. And right now, they're the ones that I think have kind of been taking a few chances, not like the bad chances, like hiring Colin Trevorrow as, and then firing him, and then hiring and firing everybody in the Star Wars universe. They're too buttoned down, is their point. I mean, like that. I understand what they're doing.
I think we have a good chance of getting fired from the new Star Wars movie. Like, I really do think it could still happen.
What about Mothra though? I was always a Mothra guy.
Mothra is apparently supposed to have a cameo.
Yeah, Mothra was a badass. Mothra.
It is a testament to Skull Island. I just the giant monster movies have never been
did that do
my
well
thing, but I love that flick. It did pretty well.
When I was a kid, between the ages of 4 and 7, I watched every kaiju movie made between 1955 and 1985.
Yeah. Nick and I saw that together.
Sorry, I was miming. I was trying not to disrupt your thought, and then Matt answered audibly on the microphone and ruined it.
I don't understand.
I was saying, did we see that movie together? I couldn't remember.
I was just saying, when I saw every...
Ben's got like just a tear.
So rude.
He's about to sell this
so
like
rude.
this like.
I'm sorry, Benny.
I was a child and friendless.
I wasn't doing that to be an
and
asshole.
my best friend was Mothra, because Mothra was ready to come out of her cocoon just like I was going to come out of mine.
I love I love the twist in Mothra, right? Where they're fighting Mothra. Yeah, the first one they're fighting Mothra, and like they can't defeat it, and they finally beat Mothra, and the end of the movie, I think, right, is like all the eggs hatch. It's a great twist in a monster movie. They finally beat Mothra, and they find out that there's like this, like hundreds of little Mothras get.
So Mothra's a lady?
Well, that's not really.
Isn't that how it ends?
That's not really accurate. But
is that not what happens in Mothra? That should happen in Mothra. Isn't that a good idea?
Okay, first off,
isn't that a really good idea? Though, for real.
And just
I'm so out of my element in
with
this.
Mothra and the same as a bunch of other kaiju movies, that there's no real ever defeating of, because the kaijus are also supposed to be like a part of nature. Like they're not supposed to be bad. They're supposed to be like they're there.
Better than bad. They're good.
In a lot of cases, they are good. That's one of the reasons why Godzilla is good. I mean, Godzilla defeats the monsters at the end of the new Godzilla movie.
Well,
he is
that Godzilla, was a very
it
good
even says it
spin.
at the top. Godzilla, savior of our city. That is the kaiju kind of template.
Kaiju juju?
It's that these giant, terrifying monsters that can destroy everything and end up kind of saving humanity in a way. It's all. It's all a metaphor. But anyways.
And should we do a monster movie podcast?
Apparently so.
Apparently.
I think maybe you guys.
I think it's got legs.
I could talk very...
I think it's got legs. In some cases, several.
Oh, boy. By the way, to all of our kaiju friends out there, happy Rosh Hashanah. I just wanted to work that in.
That's pretty good. I liked it.
You don't get it? Come on.
I got it.
Come on.
I got it.
All right, so
and for all of our Bear Jew friends out there.
Wow.
Eli Roth
hit the ball.
So, it was super funny. I was listening to
Grand Slam.
I was listening to Stern today, and they do like their replay of like old episodes that are influenced by whatever was talked on the show today. And I don't know what it was that spurred it, but they had 2007 Eli Roth on the show talking about his like movie career, and had like some of the funniest fucking stories about working on Meet Joe Black and working with Martin Brest. And he goes, literally the joke on set is Martin Brest would lean over
and say his last name.
No, to people in the crew, and he's like multiple times, and he'd go, "This is my Oscar shot." If any of you out there have not seen Meet Joe Black, I urge you to watch it just so you understand why that ridiculous.
I met Joe Black. I wasn't a fan.
I prefer your idea of him leaning and just going, breast.
I do too. But to kind of get back on topic here, I recently saw this clip by Frank Zappa, and maybe you guys have seen it because it's been floating around social media.
Yeah, I've got it right here.
You do?
Yeah.
It's been floating around psychedelia.
This is Frank Zappa.
Yes, Drax? I got a penis.
Ha! Thank you.
It's not half bad.
That's not Frank Zappa.
That was Frank Zappa talking to Moon Unit Zappa about his penis.
Okay, that would be inappropriate. They did Valley Girl together, and that was the extent of their collaboration professionally. But Frank Zappa was talking about the music industry. And they were asking, Frank, like, you're such a weirdo. Like, who does anybody really listen to your music? How did you get a record deal? You're
Is he
so
still
weird.
alive?
Oh, God,
No. Zappa.
He's been dead for like 50 years.
No, not 50.
He's been
while.
dead for so long.
He died in the 80s.
But anyway, he was such a experimental musician. Some of that stuff is borderline unlistenable. From someone who's born and raised in Baltimore and loves weird music, some of it is too much for me. But
It's like jazz.
very much like just crazy
You can respect it, but
psychedelic
not good to
jazz
listen to.
experimental. But he said, everyone thought that these old, bald, 70-year-old cigar chomping dudes were bad for the industry, but they weren't that bad because their attitude was, it's fine, put it out, see if it sells. If it does, great. If it doesn't, we won't do it anymore. But then these new hip young executives came in and knew what everyone wanted. So they pushed a very specific thing, and they were more, and in fact, more regulatory. So his whole point was, and it's actually worth a YouTube search to watch the whole thing, but these old cigar chomping dudes were much better for the industry because they at least gave unconventional, original music a chance. And if it didn't succeed, then you were out. But I feel like there's a little bit of that going on for the past 15 years. But here's the thing, Matt, and to touch on what you said earlier, there was a certain formula for a long time where a certain type of movie would always do well at a certain type of year, and they've been pumping out the same types of movies at the same type of year, part of the year, and it's suddenly now for the first time, this blockbuster summer has really been underachieving, save for like Wonder Woman and Guardians and a few superhero movies. Outside of that, there's really nothing that's stuck because audiences are clearly saying, look, we're going to stay home and watch Netflix unless you give us something that's worth getting in my car and getting the audience experience for.
Well, and I think there's also just the missing of the back and forth. Dunkirk is the closest thing that we got this summer to the fact that like a movie like Forrest Gump was a summer movie. In 94, 93, 94, somewhere around there.
94.
That was a fucking summer movie. There's no way a studio producing that movie nowadays puts it that far out because they want Oscars. But it didn't matter back then. It was, first of all, that was that crazy fucking Oscar race year of Pulp Fiction versus Shawshank versus Forrest Gump.
Was that 94, 95?
Yeah.
But it seems crazy in retrospect, but Shawshank Redemption grossed like $18 million at the box office.
Yeah, it was a huge flop.
Nobody saw that movie when it came out, and then it found a huge
Thanks,
audience
TBS.
after it was released. Yeah, on VHS.
And I think that's the problem. Is I think there are still chances being taken. And Edgar Wright tried it this summer with Baby Driver, which actually did it. People did show up this summer for certain movies in strange ways. Like Baby Driver, I would never have thought would have been such a big hit as it was, and I didn't particularly love the movie.
I haven't seen it.
It wasn't a big hit.
It
made a lot more than they thought. It was a
it-
big surprise.
Is it original? I haven't seen it.
100%.
It's a heist movie with his patented stylistic flair.
It's a series of music videos.
No, basically it's a highly stylized music video.
Yeah.
An hour and a half music video.
Okay. So it's original.
I want to see it, and I look like you're right, but
it has one exception, which Ben and I we will not spoil, but we both agreed. There's one character that acts completely outside of the convention that normally happens in this movie, and it's handled really nicely.
So it sets up the entire movie, and you're like, well, we know exactly where this is going. And at the very end of the movie, it completely flips the convention on its head, and that's what I found most satisfying about that movie, because I was just like, you know what? Besides the stylization that Edgar Wright obviously brought to the story, because it's
brings to everything.
It's very stylized. I was like, this is super conventional. It's a super conventional
That's
heist
what I'm
movie.
saying.
I was like, it's very much just like watching,
Heat wrapped in a
Just very well done.
or like
Just very
or like,
well done.
or like
Oceans.
or like Ocean's 11. Yeah, it's like Ocean's 11, but I don't know, mixed with Heat, or yeah, exactly. But it does at the end. Makes this big turn with one character, and I'm just like, wow,
I'm into that.
Okay,
I'm into that.
and I told Matt, I was like that I really respected the fact that they took that one character that you knew what their motivation
When you're making
was.
a genre film, you have to. I feel like you kind of have a responsibility to do something. You know,
that's like the thing that was, I guess, is strange for me with the movie. And I liked the main character a little bit better than I thought I was actually going to like it. I thought it was going to be just kind of one of these characters that is desirable or interesting because they're the main character, no other reason. Just like, oh well, they're the main character, so we have to be interested in them. He was actually a little more well-rounded. But Edgar Wright has written so many great characters. Even looking at something like Scott Pilgrim, which yes, they're stereotypes.
Love Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, I fucking love Scott,
but not original. Based on Brian,
not original, but the writing.
Brian
in it,
O'Malley.
His writing in it is great. But you look at the Cornetto trilogy, and that very much is all characters. I mean, in fact, the World's End. I think that's what that one's called.
World's End.
That one's not even the best of the films, but it probably has the best character discussions and development in it of anything he's done.
I unabashedly love that movie. I love it too. And a lot of people hate it.
I didn't dislike it.
A lot of people
something was a little short.
unfairly compare it to the others, but I really think that movie's great.
I mean, they're three completely different vibes.
It just so happens to be the Edgar Wright film with the most beer in it. Coincidence?
I don't know where you're going with that one. All right, Ben. So I'm erect waiting for this dissertation you're going to do here.
Well,
we're going to dim the lights, folks. Nick and I are going to turn our mics off.
And now I hate the fact that I brought it up. But I actually am piggybacking off of kind of what Nick has already said. If you're talking about the history of summer film, you would probably say that the blockbuster started in '75 with Jaws, and it crystallized in '89 with Batman. Batman was the first one where all of a sudden you had franchise opportunities, where
merchandising,
you had merchandising, and all of these other elements that came in. And it became this thing where it was like the studio said, we have to have this film that people are not going to go see, but they're going to go see multiple times because it's the summer and you're going to have kids who are out of school and they're going to go see it multiple times. And they're going to buy the backpack and they're going to buy the T-shirt and they're going to buy shit.
And the Burger King glasses.
Oh yeah,
exactly. And so
the Sears catalog, which I circled all the things I wanted.
You remember it.
Through the '90s. The time that I felt like we grew up and were sort of formative in watching a bunch of movies in the theater.
I mean, I was 23, but that's fine.
we would go see films multiple times. We would
still do though.
No, and I'm not saying this is us. This is us on NBC.
Not winning as many things as I thought I was going to.
I was going to make that joke.
But no. I'm saying that multiple people, like I saw Jurassic Park 7 times in the theater, like for fucking real.
I think I've never seen anything more than 6 times, but I've seen many things 6 times.
No, I just saw it because it was in theaters for so long. If you don't remember, it was released in June. It was in theaters until November.
Yeah,
it was literally
crazy.
in theaters until November. The like VHS release of that movie came out at Christmas. So
it's weird. But when I look at movies that really inspired me, I didn't see Nightmare Before Christmas multiple times, but I should have. But I saw Beauty and the Beast 3 times. I saw Day After Tomorrow 3 times in the theater for some reason.
Listen,
that's not necessarily a.
Here's what I'm saying though: is that Hollywood developed this model where they found that people, when they made these huge event films, would go to multiple movies and go see them multiple times within this summer time frame. We're in a time now, I think that the summer movie is dead. I think there is no such thing as a summer movie anymore. And that's a big stretch. And it's a big arguing point. Now, the reason why I say that is because I believe that the summer movie time now is the holiday season. I think the biggest films come out around the holidays because right now they're looking for the crossover audience. They're looking for people who are going to see movies. Now, I almost want to put the C as Titanic in 97 because
it was a holiday movie.
It was a holiday movie
that lasted till summer.
It was also 3 hours long. Theaters were showing half the amount of screenings.
And then
of that film.
4 years later, The Lord of the Rings kind of started pouring on that a little bit because those
also
were
3 hours.
Well, 3 hours.
Potter was
and Potter.
November releases.
There were a couple of summer releases
later on, yeah.
But ironically, they moved past. Then it was like, no more summer releases. We're going to do these specialized, and it was the holiday releases. And the reason why I think this is because not only the ubiquitous nature of media and how we can all of a sudden stream stuff and people could get the DVDs at home, and now you can just stream everything. I mean, like it's been this progression of things kind of moving in this direction. I really feel like it's also that now the time for an event film where you can experience something with people is around the holidays. It's not in the summer. The summer is so much more nebulous now. Like, you're not going to go watch a movie with your family, and people are seeing things one time as opposed to multiple times.
But I've never watched movies with my
I don't
family.
think people are going to see things multiple times at the holidays either. I think you're right on the one side. I think what streaming has killed is the multiple visit for a lot of people.
Here's what I say. I say, Black Panther's coming out in February. A lot of Marvel films come out in May.
Right.
Like, that's not a summer blockbuster movie, but 15 years ago, pick any Marvel movie, and that's a summer blockbuster movie. That's a big event, and like the superheroes were kind of reserved for summer when there was only Spider-Man. They only released it during the summer, but now there's so many. They can release them whenever they want.
What I was building up to now is basically like I feel like now it's a jockey for position just to be exclusive, because Deadpool was a fucking February. Oh, it was February. It was
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it was.
That's right.
And so now it's more of like, let's put something in a place where we can capitalize on the fact that there's nothing else against us that we can compete against.
But also, let's get the Deadpool PR team the credit where credit is absolutely due. But seriously though, Deadpool really more than most films in a year had more creative, full court press PR than almost anything that's come out.
You already said earlier, though, because every single movie that's released in the summer now is stuff that it relies entirely on the foreign market. It does, but the whole thing.
That's how you cast a film too, Ben. It totally relies on the foreign market.
I pulled clips from 3 movies for this podcast for this summer, and I think they are 3 completely different. But 2 of them are kind of close, but 3 different segments markets that did extremely well in the summer box office and were extremely well made. You've heard a couple, I'll play my favorite bit from Guardians 2.
No! He thinks you want him to wear it as a hat.
That's not what I said.
I'm Groot. He's relieved you don't want him to.
I'm Groot.
He hates hats.
I'm Groot.
On anyone, not just himself.
I'm Groot.
One minute you think someone has a weird shaped head, the next minute it's just because you realize part of that head is the hat. That's why you don't like hats?
So Guardians is 1, hold on.
Hey. You just saved your life. Now what do you say?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's fucking the king of 89 coming back to do Spider-Man this summer, which is another one. But probably what'll go down as my favorite one of the summer.
Would you say you're a typical example of your sex?
I am above average.
First of all, one of the greatest pieces of dialogue in delivery by Chris Pine ever. But Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, and Guardians still fit the summer blockbuster mold. And if you look at it, all of the big summer blockbusters... Do you think
those movies would have made less money if they were released any other time of year?
Yeah.
I don't at all.
I completely disagree.
I don't think at all. I think right now, I mean, 4 years ago, people said that superhero fad was going to be gone.
You think Batman 89 wouldn't have played in December? Like, I don't understand that argument.
Well, UHF would have been the #1 movie in America if that had happened. But if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
Are you asking about Batman 89 today?
I mean, Batman 89...
Batman 2017 by Christopher Nolan.
I don't understand.
I'm saying the entire... The paradigm has shifted, is what I'm saying. I'm saying
that you can get away with more outside of the summer?
That you can release these movies
whenever.
Any time. Because the summer has become... It's non-exclusive.
What about animated movies?
Anytime.
Anytime.
Anytime?
Anytime.
Anytime.
I know a lot of animated have done November and December, but I know also like kids are out of school in summer and things like that, right? That doesn't affect you. I'm asking a genuine question.
And that's what I'm saying is that used to be the driving factor of one of the reasons why studio summer movies were so big. Kids are out of school and they need shit to do. They are not going to the movies, or they're going once. They're not. You're not relying on repeat
And parents
business.
are perfectly fine taking their kids to see Transformers again if it means not being at home, having them fucking yell and.
But yeah, I mean, I just think the multiple movies for the most part is. Other than me, I'm one of the few people that goes multiple times because I like to go watch it with different people. I'm an asshole like that.
Let me just put you on a little mission here, though.
Oh,
so say for the last.
Yes, sir.
We want you to go
calendar
to Africa and convert.
Look at the last
to Christians.
Look at the last calendar year, and look at the last calendar year, and look at what the highest grossing movies of the year were, and look at when they were released. And you're going to find more of them exist outside of the summer than they do within the summer.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I know the one. I mean, you might be talking about a certain Beauty and the Beast. That came out in March and broke a lot of box office records is what I'm guessing you were heading towards.
But the thing is 10 years ago, nobody would the
spring blockbuster. It's here, everyone. Finally,
nobody would have thought that would have happened, and so
except for Mr. Matthew Shank.
Fuck, man, that was satisfying.
Anyways,
I gotta be honest.
all
have you ever brought up that bet on the podcast? Does anyone know the reference?
I really do.
He's gonna no. We should talk about this.
I don't want to go on for too long, but I also want to just talk with Nick.
Yes, you do.
Continue your whatever.
I'm joking.
No, I was.
I'm joking.
I was done with my.
So yearly, #1, Beauty and the Beast, which you're correct, came out in I think like March. Rogue One, December. Star Wars and Rogue One. I'm looking at this is all time, but wow, I did not know American Sniper made as much money as apparently it did.
Holy cow! December release.
Avengers, that was a while ago.
That's May.
That was May.
The Avengers are always May.
That counts as I think it counts.
Toy
as
Story
summer.
3 was definitely summer because of John's wedding.
Wait, you think May counts as summer?
Yes,
think May counts
May
as
is
summer.
May is a summer movie month now.
Okay.
Avatar, Dark Knight,
now it is.
Spider-Man 3, Dead Man's Chest, Revenge of the Sith, Shrek 2.
I said look in the last couple of years though.
I know. I'm just looking at all time, but
For convenience.
Yeah. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
Oh God. Well, you think that the host of a podcast would have this information readily available?
And
he had that Frank Zappa clip on cue,
honestly,
didn't he?
I think the movie that turned the trend to March was The Matrix, because The Matrix came out in March.
Yeah, I mean, but you're right though. Like you've seen almost like Hallmark dictating when they want a new holiday to be when there's a slow month. It's almost the same exact thing.
And here's the crazy thing: like if you don't realize this, now March is like the prime time. It used to be a shit month. 20 years ago, March was a shitty time to release a movie. Now there are huge movies being released in March. I mean, like Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
I was released in March.
No, I think you were released 9 months before March.
What?
Ew.
Oh.
Yeah.
Technically.
You were released.
Technically.
And caught.
I escaped.
Caught, and maybe the grossest I've ever felt saying a word in my entire life.
My family hosted you for Thanksgiving.
All right, so
My family hosted you for the hurricane.
Worldwide
You
2017,
monster.
Beauty and the Beast #1, Fate of the Furious, which was May or April.
No, it was
Is that
April.
April, right? Do we consider April summer? No.
Well, it depends on what. But that's what I'm saying.
Do we consider January summer?
It's so
May?
much more nebulous now, and that's the thing. It just keeps broadening and broadening. So no, I don't consider April and May or April like a summer movie.
Can I have a hot take real quick?
There's
I
something
think-
called Wolf Warrior 2, which from Hong Kong made a lot of money, just to let you know.
When was it released?
I don't know. I've never heard of it before, and I'm afraid to look up what it is. Oh no. Wolf Warrior 2 was released. Oh, Jesus.
All right,
I can't read any
Wolf
of this.
Warrior 2 party, my place next Friday.
Sorry, Ben. July 28th.
Oh, it was a summer
released
movie.
in Hong Kong. They still go in the summer.
But that's a real summer movie, like not like a May summer
Okay,
movie.
2017 worldwide grosses, but I'm skipping all of the fall of last year because I can't filter it any other way. But yeah, it's in between. Pirates of the Caribbean is in the top 8. Logan also in the top 10, but not summer.
You were also talking about international gross,
Correct.
right? Yes.
Okay,
I'm
now I wanna know-
I'm talking about domestic gross.
Now I want to know what movie made a lot of money that wasn't based on a comic book.
Get Out.
Okay, so that's it, right? that's it.
No, the movie that I mentioned earlier.
But you get my point.
Yeah, there were some. Oh, by the way, did anyone see Detroit? Because I really wanted to see Detroit, and I did not get
No, I haven't
to see it. I heard it was good. I heard it was really good.
Mixed things.
Did anyone,
I think
did
that
anyone
it's-
see The Nut Job 2? Because that's the
I
greatest
did.
name for a movie.
I
ever.
actually did see that. I felt it was a bit nebulous.
Oh, man.
That's what I thought.
Girls Trip. Girls Trip was an original.
Okay,
comedy.
there
It
we
made
go.
A lot of
Girls
money.
Trip.
It made a lot of money.
God. Listen,
Well, I've made my. I mean, like, anyways.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not that. Like I said, and especially with the international markets, of course, that summer movie season still appears, and there are movies that are going to make a ton of movie, like Transformers or something like that. Like,
and
you're
they
not
always
gonna release
will.
that anytime.
They always will. Yeah.
But I'm talking about domestically, and I'm talking about like. When
Okay, here we go. I finally fucking found this. So number one,
God.
Beauty and the Beast. Wonder Woman #2. Guardians of the Galaxy #3. Spider-Man #4. Despicable Me #5.
Okay.
It #6. Logan 7. Fate of the Furious 8. Dunkirk 9. Lego Batman Movie 10.
Okay,
Get
okay.
Out 11.
Okay,
all right.
so
all right.
so
Good for Get Out.
Split.
Almost made it.
yeah, it's split.
It's split. Yeah, and I don't know if that. And you're right. I'm sure you're right that back in the day it wasn't as far
It
as
was
box
not.
office
It
goes.
was not.
It wasn't.
I think Ben's right about spring and winter are now the Hollywood summer blockbuster.
Well, now, so
really do.
another question to ask. So we've talked about how what we want from our summer blockbusters and things like that. Outside of the '80s, how many original blockbusters were there that don't fall into the same trope? Especially, first of all, is for the most part, summer blockbusters, other than like Forrest Gump, there are a few outliers, but the majority of them are escapist films, meaning sci-fi, comic book, monster movie, some sort of genre thing. It's not, Forrest Gump is one of the very few that's like, yeah, I want to watch slow Tom Hanks
When did
on
Apollo
a bench.
13 come out?
That's a summer movie.
It was a summer movie, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I mean, but based on existing materials as of history.
This is the sad commentary part of this whole thing.
Gladiator was a summer movie.
When you look at
Yeah, based on Braveheart, which did it better years before, which was based on history.
Braveheart, which is
Sort
also
of,
a summer movie.
sort of.
not really.
No, Braveheart's a real good example. A good just action movie without any sort of fantasy element to it.
I think you
That's
mean a
kinda
girls'
interesting.
movie.
but big set pieces.
That is still the most awful thing you've ever said on this podcast.
but it still have these epic big set pieces and
Yeah.
fights like you see in the Marvel films and you see these in these big movies, right?
Hey, Matt. I've loved you.
Always have.
Always
Always
have.
have.
I love that in basketball. It's my favorite. My favorite delivery of that line.
Do you think that really what it is, though, is more of a siphoning to people seeing more Oscar movies that used to go just kind of under the radar?
No, I don't think so, because I think people are just as stupid as they have always been.
I think if you do something original, it's going to be rewarded. I part of me, maybe it's quixotic, like positive side of me, but you look at Spielberg, right? What is gone is there's there's no longer the director, filmmaker, writer. You know, the filmmaker writer that does.
But he wasn't
Jordan
writing.
Peele with Get Out this year. One of
But
the most
Spielberg
successful
wasn't writing.
movies of
Melissa
this year.
Matheson wrote E.T.
Ben,
and...
you can safely assume that whatever I say, there's an exception. But
no, but I mean,
overall,
Spielberg's not a writer.
Yeah, Spielberg's never been a writer.
But listen, Spielberg. When you look at Close Encounters, E.T., Jaws was based on the Benchley book, but like he kind of made his career off of movies that were not based off of books or other television series. They were originals. That was the first time anyone had seen them or heard of them.
Jaws was based on the ocean, Nick. Everyone knows that.
But seriously, think about this. Now, it almost ironically, what is Spielberg doing? He's doing a movie based on a book that is entirely based on
other
80s
movies.
nostalgia. So it went from somebody in the 80s who was making films that no one
Which
had
I'm
ever
still
read or
excited
seen.
about seeing. by
I'm
the
not
way.
saying I'm not, but like Ready Player One it was based on a book.
You're right.
That heavily relies on 80s nostalgia, and in the first 2 pages it mentions Oingo Boingo. So I'm not gonna knock it, but at the same time, he made his career off of like really original film, like strictly film enterprises, and that doesn't exist
But I think
anymore.
there are less of the.
What are you talking about? It doesn't exist anymore. It
Whoa.
totally exists. It exists across the entire spectrum. The problem is it doesn't exist in mainstream tentpole films anymore.
Yes, like Back to the Future was a great example of like a film that was absolutely not an indie art house film.
There are people
but,
pushing
like,
the boundary and
it did both.
making more original films now than ever before. There are more people making
So
films.
why
than ever
why
before.
isn't it connecting?
No, but
why isn't it resonating like Back to the Future
or why is
E.T.?
But occasionally you have the one that breaks through, but we're talking.
But not
about,
like E.T., which is a phenomenon, and not like Back to the Future, which is a cultural
you
phenomenon.
Want the easy answer is because there aren't ideas people in Hollywood in the 80s like they were in the 80s. There aren't.
The cigar chomping guys were better for the industry.
No. There's some rewriting of history going on. You're naming certain tent poles that were significant like that, and I can name ones like Inception or Interstellar. That are doing this.
But the Inception now is
neither of which are great movies.
Inception now is a Bwong
I'll
app.
argue that.
Is a Bwong app on my phone. It's not Back to the Future that
It is for you,
using
that doesn't-
Super Bowl commercials
That's
it's not the same. It's not in the same league.
I see. I don't think that's entirely true either. Like, I think that we are in the same cycle we've been in, but it's easy to look back on our childhood and say that, because I know my parents in the 80s were saying shit like all movies today are ridiculous. They're loud and they're noisy. And they're all the same soundtrack and all that stuff. We do the same. Everyone falls into that same thing with music and movies and all that shit. I think it's
look. Star Wars,
I know
cultural
you're
phenomenon.
You're saying
Marvel, cultural phenomenon.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, we're in the same cycle we've always been in.
I completely disagree with you.
I'm new good shit too.
I'm aware. I just told you. I just said that more good stuff is being made now than ever before.
Yeah,
I agree. I think that with music. I think that with movies. I think that with a lot of things in popular culture. The problem is that the stuff that's getting money or the stuff that's monetized or the stuff that gets out there is oftentimes not the most quality stuff. There are amazing films that you can go watch for free
Absolutely.
on Netflix
Yeah,
or Amazon Prime.
That's always been the case.
But here's
no,
what
that
I'm
has
saying.
not always been the case.
Bullshit.
What are you fucking talking about, dude?
There are no good 90s filmmakers that were opposite Independence Day.
Matt.
Independence Day is a great fucking movie.
Matt. Literally last year, 74,000 films were rated by the MPAA. Guess how many were rated in 1979?
37.
No. I'm just telling you. There is a barometer here.
Of what? I'm
there
confused.
are so many fewer films that were made back then that were accessible to an audience. We have so much more to ingest now.
We do, yeah, I agree with that, but I'm still confused as to what the argument is.
What I was saying, basically, what you were saying is that the argument is that we're in the cycle and that everything's the exact same as it always was.
We're releasing more and better movies. It's the market's getting better, but not worse, right?
I'm saying that the stuff is out there, but it's just not being released to a wide audience.
But was it?
I don't know what you're arguing, Matt.
Yeah, I don't because I don't understand what the argument is against it. Because I'm looking at the same cycle of looking at something like Independence Day, which was a huge fucking movie.
But it wasn't a cultural phenomenon. You're saying that things are the same now as they were back then, and I'm saying they are definitively not. I can point to facts that say that they are not the same as they used to be. When there used to be 100 major releases, and now there are well over 1,000 major releases in the world, then you know that there is a definitive difference between then and now.
Yes, but what does that mean? What is the result of that? Is what I'm asking.
What I'm saying is that there is there is still quality out there.
Yes,
and that people are do not have the capacity, whether it is because of an exposure or is because of just.
I think people have the capacity even more so than in the day to see anything they want now, from things like Netflix to Amazon to all kinds of places where movies are being more readily available.
Which works
to
well
them.
for those,
but not just readily available.
Which works well for those 5 movies that work well on word of mouth. But what about all the other movies that nobody hears about?
What about all the movies that didn't get made when they couldn't get financing for the stuff that you're talking about? When there were only 100 movies that were made.
So then they go to Netflix and they do get made. That's the one thing about Netflix.
That's what I'm saying.
They are fostering.
There's plenty more out there now that is getting a chance versus the idea that we used to have a gatekeeper saying, unless you are going to make us this amount of money, you can't make a movie. That's
right.
Where I think something like where Kevin Smith inspired me. That's where my film school came from, because this was a guy that did a movie for fucking no money. Before that couldn't happen.
We're arguing about different things here.
but here's what I'm saying though. We're living in a world where we can stream a bunch of movies, that Netflix is funding movies that never would have gotten a chance in the Hollywood system. We have a lot of options. We have a lot of different writers and directors and filmmakers putting out a wide variety of films, which we've never seen, right? But when we look back in the 80s, like, it's just still sort of the golden age of blockbuster films for me still. When you go to Universal Studios, you still see, no longer Back to the Future, but you still see E.T. You got these tentpoles in the 80s that weren't just summer blockbusters and didn't just make a lot of money. They became really embedded in our culture, and that doesn't exist anymore outside of, I think, Harry Potter and Marvel films.
And not Harry Potter, because Harry Potter is a holiday release, and that's what
based on a book.
It leads me to my whole thing about the Hollywood blockbuster is dead. To me, it's dead. To me,
summer blockbuster.
The summer blockbuster has become a more nebulous thing. Of the blockbuster is more of a year-round thing, and it's more about picking your spots. Deadpool picked their spot. They picked a dump shit spot to put out a movie that's usually reserved for, maybe a romantic comedy.
But the paradigm has shifted
around no other, and the paradigm has shifted, and now they're getting very creative. And now, you know what? That movie that may have been a summer tentpole blockbuster, that might be released in fucking October. It might be released in March. It might be released in fucking January. It might be released in the month that nobody wants to release a movie in anymore.
But for one final talking point to think about for this, because to me it's where it ties into scores, which we've talked about a few times, right? So we're asking
the strip club in West Palm Beach.
We're asking about what is lasting, right? What is lasting for people that is going to be there? What is their Back to the Future? What is that? What are your kids?
Yeah, what is their Back to the Future?
What is that thing? But
storks.
But here's the thing,
seriously, Nicholas Stoll wrote it. So.
No, well, first of all, Marvel 100% is right. Marvel is going to be a lot of kids Star Wars and Back to the Future, whatever role, because you have to always remember,
as it should be.
The kids 10 years ahead of my kids. Marvel is definitely their shit.
Think about what Marvel's doing. So Marvel is not.
But our fathers were reading Marvel.
Marvel is doing one movie that's like Back to the Future, and another movie that's like Star Wars, and another movie that's like Batman, and another movie that's like independent. They're making all of these different genre things, right? I still hold hope. That not hope. It doesn't matter. It doesn't for me. It doesn't fucking matter when the movie comes out, right? It really shouldn't ever had to, but it just became the thing, right? Summer movies, people were bored. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have Netflix. They didn't have all these other things, which is, I think, really what we're talking about is killing that. When does something come out? The same as does it matter what night of the week a TV show airs anymore? Really? it doesn't fucking matter. Does it matter if it airs at 3 a.m. in the morning for most of us?
It doesn't.
Doesn't really fucking matter.
Because we don't watch it when it comes on.
But there are still a few that are
Hulu.
event TV things that you watch. You watch Game of Thrones when it's on, mainly because you don't want to get spoiled by other shit. But there's a lot of
Or
things
get a
like
cease
that.
and desist if you download it.
But I mean, but the thing is, what is the big memorable thing right now? Because I always come down to it with movie scores, right? You hear Back to the Future. Any kid that was in the 80s or 90s, they know that theme. They know the Star Wars theme. They know the Superman theme.
I've told you before. I hear the Batman theme. I get fucking rock hard.
All right.
Calm down over there. No, but it's interesting because I think it's also just that there is so much out there that people aren't necessarily latching on to any one thing versus. We had Batman and Lethal Weapon 2 that summer and UHF.
But the thing is, what else was out that year? There was anything even like those movies.
That's the thing is that summer
that was the Hollywood blockbusters. The budgets were reserved for those 3 months.
But it was but really that summer. What else do you remember about '89? I happen to know Lethal Weapon 2 because it was in it.
I bought my first real
I was
6 string.
I was 7 years old.
Yeah, I was 10. No, I saw
Nice.
I saw
I liked it.
3 movies that summer. Maybe actually it was Last Crusade.
Matt will get it when he plays the episode
I
back.
got
Last
it.
Crusade did come out in
89.
89.
Fuck you.
Last Crusade did come out in 89.
So Indiana Jones was the smaller of the movies that summer.
I saw that when it came out around the holidays on VHS.
Yeah, and so that's the other thing that I think is really also impacts the cycle of movies is when they come out on. I have Guardians on right now, and it came out. Guardians lasted less than our podcast has lasted thus far this year before it came out on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
that's crazy. It used to be you had to wait fucking for that's
6
and that's
months.
Also why you went and saw a movie multiple times.
Exactly.
That's why I saw Wayne's World 6 times.
I'm not
going
to see this movie again.
Yeah,
for 6 months.
I've got to watch it enough I can remember the lines until this VHS comes out in
Technology,
6 or 8
man.
months, man. Fucking nuts. So we're all in agreement, even though we just argue and bicker about shit. We're like the Golden Girls. We just need cheesecake and beer.
I really enjoy this. I really enjoy us
Who
just
is
arguing
Blanche?
about minutia.
Well, I'm glad we do.
I do.
No, I
it's
mean,
fun.
no, I mean, and I don't. Is this just playing in our heads for the most part?
I kind of think
is this therapy for us?
Yeah, I think
Matt,
so.
Matt.
I'm lying on a couch and telling you about my personal experiences.
Matt,
Mr. Six String.
Matt.
Oh boy.
This is us.
This is
on NBC.
Well, you're gonna get a.
So where's your pal Spider-Man? Let me guess, in Canada with your imaginary girlfriend? That's not Spider-Man. That's just Ned in a red shirt.
I'm gonna call you Penis Parker from now on.
Okay.
Say penis! You say Parker!
Penis.
Parker.
Penis.
That's
Parker.
right. Anyway, folks, we are glad for whoever you are out there that listened to us this week, for tuning in. Tell your friends about us. Well, you probably don't have any friends.
Greg, don't let Matt.
Greg. Greg,
Don't let Matt talk to you like that.
This message is to Greg right now. So just everyone, Greg, we need your help. You're our only hope. You've got to get the word out about Last Pint. I'm thinking a tattoo or maybe a naked streaking at a Dolphins game. I will pay for your ticket. I know you want to go.
If Greg gets a Last Pint tattoo, I'll pay for it.
I'll pay for the tattoo. I'll pay someone to shave Last Pint into your body hair. And have on it whatever you want that we can use you as a human billboard. We will pay handsomely. I mean, we'll take our whole, but we'll sell the studio to make this happen. But thanks for listening. We hope you tune in next week and have a great time.
Cheers.
Cheers.